Hey guys, it's Kid. I wanted to start off these videos with a bit of a bang, and what better way than with Sweet Fuse, aka Kiss Kiss Blow It Up. Sweet Fuse stars Saki Inafune, niece of legendary game designer Keiji Inafune, creator of Mega Man, Onimusha, Dead Rising, and not Mega Man. Old Uncle Keiji's built himself a massive video game themed amusement park, which this guy Hogstein has taken over, turning all the park's attractions into deadly death traps and taking the park staff hostage, including Uncle Keiji. In order to save him, you'll have to help Saki solve Hogstein's puzzles and make it through his deranged obstacle courses within 7 days, where everything in the park, including you and your uncle, gets blown to bits. But of course, this is an Otome game, so you won't be doing this alone. Hogstein has picked out a colourful cadre of 6 dateable dudes to play his twisted game with you, and this group might possibly be the best ensemble cast I've seen in a game like this.
Characters Romance.
Subaru Shido. Every Otome game has one main guy. You know, the one who's always front and center in all the ads, and who invariably turns out to be the most boring guy alive. Shido kind of falls into that role here. He's a hard-boiled investigator with a firm sense of justice. He's also overly meticulous and possesses a massive stick shoved deep up his arse. Over the course of his route, we see that his tough guy act is mainly a cover-up for some painful dorkiness, and his stiff awkwardness ends up becoming oddly adorable. During the game, if you don't get enough attraction points from anyone, you end up with Shido, and that's not all a bad thing. For once, I don't actually hate the main guy in an Otome game. Sure, he's not my favorite, but he's kind of fun and not too bland. Ryusei Mitarashi. Big, brash, boisterous, and as smooth as silk. He works as a top-tier host, and as such, he's naturally skilled at being both charming and funny, as well as having killer abs. He's also hot-headed and reckless, and underneath his badass exterior lies a sentimental guy who might even be kind of a geek. Man, this dude is a ton of fun. Urabe Kimimaro, a mysterious fortune teller with an oddly soothing voice. He's the team mom, and always there to offer calm and helpful suggestions as to how to solve each of the game's puzzles, reminding everyone to keep focused. He seems almost unflappable, but still waters run deep, and there's a hell of a lot of conflicting emotions going on under the surface with this guy. Also, he kinda looks like Brad Pitt to me. Something about his eyes. Toa Wakasa. Sweet Fuse's resident Shota character is a pop idol who is way too cool and way too pretty to be here. Naturally, he spends the first third of the game sobbing about how terrified he is. Despite all this though, he's a surprisingly thoughtful guy with fantastic observational skills and a sharp tongue. He slowly evolves into the group's snarker, and oh god, his lines are gold. Kota Meyoshi. In a genre where every other male character looks like he fell out of a fashion magazine, having this greasy head, sweaty neat with panda eyes as a dateable option is just a cool change of pace. Meyoshi's near-encyclopedic knowledge of gaming, logical thinking, and quick reflexes make him an invaluable part of the team. Whether or not he can actually get over his racking self-doubt and trust issues and truly come out of his shell is all up to you. Ayumu Shirabe, a grizzled reporter with a razor-sharp wit, a wry sense of humor, a head packed to bursting with facts and useless trivia, and an absolute commitment to finding out the truth. And that's not a cigarette. Shirabe's always got a stick of Pocky in his mouth to complement his adorably atrocious fashion sense. Okay, you're gonna learn pretty quick watching these videos that I am an unabashed Oyaji-con. Seriously, I loves me some older romance options. Every Otome game from now until forever needs a hot dad, and that hot dad needs to be Shirabe. Sengoku Shirabe, Vampire Shirabe, Bird Shirabe, you get the idea. Saki herself is one of the most refreshing Otome heroines I've ever played as. She's bright, strong-willed, and surprisingly self-aware. She knows when she's being selfish and has an incredibly strong sense of justice. She's endearing, and her design is just cute as a button. She always comes through to make the final contribution to the team, even if it's a bit contrived at times. She's like the team mascot. As for Hogstein, he's your typical goofy-looking but dangerous douchebag. Think Monokuma, but not quite as energetic or as threatening. He mainly exists to bicker with the heroes about how winning that game totally didn't count and they're all a bunch of smelly, incompetent losers. While he is pretty threatening at times, he's mostly just there for comic relief. But he's funny enough that it's not too big of a deal.
Gameplay.
The game's split up into 7 different challenges, each based on a different gaming genre. Within each area are 2 or 3 mini-puzzles in which the gang has to apply adventure game-style logic to a real-life scenario. Naturally, as the main character, it all falls to you to actually connect the dots and make the solutions work. Except that, well, you don't really do a lot. Most of the gameplay is just your standard visual novel-style dialogue choices, which is fine. Occasionally, Saki gets infuriated with all the bullshit she's forced to endure, and you're given the option to either bite your tongue or flip out and yell at everyone, which you'll want to do 9 times out of 10, because it's entertaining, and because many of the male characters will actually respect you for having the cojones to call them out on their screw-ups. Though there are a couple situations where yelling at the problem isn't going to make it go away. There's also a minigame called Explosive Insight, where Saki recaps the current situation with certain terms highlighted in pink. You pick 3 of these terms, and if one of those 3 is the correct point, Saki will realize what the gang needs to do to solve a puzzle. It's kind of like cross-examination in Ace Attorney, except much, much easier. Well, usually. The segments tend to be either painfully obvious or teeth-grindingly obtuse. Okay, as much as I love this game, admittedly the gameplay is arse. Several of the puzzle rooms are solved by the 6 guys just talking it over, and at times it really does kind of feel like your input is minimal. There are even a few situations where failing to find the answer doesn't really matter, since someone else might pipe up with the solution. I would have loved if you'd been given the opportunity to explore some of the challenge rooms, examine objects like an Ace Attorney or Danganronpa. The whole video game theme park idea is woefully underused. There could have been great potential for innovative puzzles and cool minigames. Hell, there's a bloody kart racing challenge. And what do I get to do? I get to read about it. Thanks, Idea Factory.
Presentation.
Wow, do I love this game's aesthetic. First off, the bomb theme is bloody everywhere. From the cute little affection icon you see after making the right dialogue choice, to the little burning spark cursor, and even Saki's hair. Exploding Aho gay, heck yeah! I love that. It's such an unusual motif and it just works somehow. It's very comic bookish. Each of the guys has a very distinct look. Not anything like your standard shoujo bishi heroes. Different color motifs, different face shapes, different body types, and very different facial expressions. Rather than just drawing 30 different faces on the same sprite, each reaction has an entirely different pose, so every conversation feels more dynamic, which really helps because holy cow are some of these sequences long. Everyone's drawn with these bright, saturated colors, thick outlines, and deep shadows. Everything just pops, and it is so nice to look at. Maybe you could even say, bombastic. The music's not bad. Where there aren't any really standout tracks, the music's still catchy as hell, and always appropriate to the scene. On top of that, it just feels energized. The danger theme's a bloody earworm, though.
Final thoughts.
One thing I haven't talked much about yet is this game's story structure, and that's because it's where the game really shines. The first few chapters of the game are immensely linear, and do get hella boring on subsequent playthroughs, but once you're actually fixed into a particular story route, things really begin to pick up. The story varies widely, whether it's the tone, the events, or even Saki's basic personality. In some routes, she's a shy, blushing, love-struck maiden. In others, she takes on a tough, protective, mommish role. She's still sucky every time, but the game uses your preferred guy as a metric for the kind of story you'd want to experience. In some routes, you won't even get to see all of Hogstein's traps, because sometimes romance takes a real precedent, and the characters in question find their own agendas far more compelling than his twisted little games, pushing the whole catching the villain thing to the back burner. This really makes every playthrough seem fresh and exciting, and getting to discover all the park's hidden secrets is an absolute joy. Every route feels like it's part of a colorful and cohesive whole, despite being so different, and that's freaking awesome! As for the actual plot content, it's campy as all get out. I've seen people describe this game as Danganronpa the Otome, but it's nowhere near that dark and grisly. Sure, there are some genuinely creepy and tense moments, but for the most part, Sweet Fuse is a big fun romp with lots of cheesy speeches about friendship and personal growth. Like a well-written shonen anime, except with more smooching. So, how do I feel? Well, despite its flaws, Sweet Fuse is still a game I'd recommend to any fan of Otome games, or even to someone who wants to get a feel for what they're all about. Seriously, this game is the bomb. God, I look like a jack.